G'day and welcome back to the channel, Ginger Ninja's Movie Reviews. I am the Ginger Ninja and I am back with Franchise Friday. Had a bit of a holiday and yeah, it's been a bit of a time off. So yeah, I really enjoyed my holiday. So and thank you for sticking with me as I did my collection videos and all that. It just gave me a bit of breathing room to be able to get back into this, and we are kicking it off with an absolute pearler of a franchise. We are looking at Insidious from 2010. Now, this film was directed by James Wan. It stars Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, Tysimpkins, Angus Sampson, leighwhannell, and linsaye. The plot. A family looks to prevent evil spirits from trapping their comatose child in a realm called the Further. Now look, in an era of jump scares and recycled ghost stories, Insidious arrived like a well-placed jolt of adrenaline, proving that old school horror could still be terrifying when handled with craft and creativity. This was directed by James Wan and written by his longtime collaborator, leighwhannell, who, like I said, he's also got a starring role in this, well, not a starring role, but he's got a role in the film. This is a supernatural horror film which marked a turning point in modern horror. A stylish, eerie, and surprisingly emotional dive into the realm of the paranormal that balances scares with a well-structured narrative. So, sit back and let's dive into the further with Insidious. Now, kicking it off with the cast, we've got Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne who lead this, and they deliver a very grounded and emotionally engaging performance as parents who are desperate to save their comatose child. Wilson balances skepticism and desperation effectively, while Byrne brings this vulnerability and strength to the role. Patrick Wilson brings a very quiet restraint to his role, and making his character Josh, emotional detachment feel like a character flaw, which actually pays off narratively later on. And Rose Byrne, who's the more emotionally reactive Renee, is more compelling in that role. Her raw fear and escalating desperation feel very authentic, especially when the strange occurrences grow more and more. The scene which really hits me is the baby monitor scene, which has become kind of a trope in the haunted house genre, especially with babies, and you can see behind me there where she drops that. It's amazing. Like, it's done so well, and the fear is palpable. linsaye as a psychic Elise is a standout though. She adds this eerie charm and warmth and credibility to the supernatural events that are unfolding. And I didn't mention before, but Barbarahershey is also in this film. She plays a bigger role in the sequel, but she's also in this film, and she does a great job as well. Now, Angus Sampson and leighwhannell as Tucker and Spence. They verge on comic relief, which undercuts the tension. Now, I didn't hate the characters, by no means. I just felt that their comic relief took away from the build-up of the overall tension in the film. Moving on to the directing and the writing, which is a huge part of this film and the main reason why it is so good. James Wan's direction is a masterclass at building suspense. He relies more on atmosphere and dread than gore, which, if we look at his previous films like the Saw franchise, there was a lot of gore in those. But what he does is he gives Insidious a creeping old school horror feel. And this is helped by leighwhannell's script, which offers a fresh twist on the haunted house genre by shifting the threat from not being the house not being haunted, but the actual child being haunted. Part of the directing that I really did enjoy was James Wan's use of long takes and unsettling camera angles and very clever lighting to create tension. There's also his decision to hold on to empty, quiet rooms for just a touch too long, which contribute to this mood of unease throughout the film. He turns domestic spaces into nightmarish realms. However, it's not all sunshine and glamour in this film. There is a tonal shift in the final act when the film veers more into surreal territory. It becomes more visually chaotic and leans towards over-explaining and loses a little bit of the tension that was built earlier. I did like the unique twist with the concept of the further, the liminal ghost dimension. The central idea is very imaginative, and it just had some exposition that felt clunky, and the dialogue did veer into cliche. Moving on to the effects. The film makes smart use of practical effects, lighting, and sound design to create scares with a very minimal reliance on CGI. It's this old school approach that heightens tension, especially in shadowy corners and background details. And the eventual confrontation with the red-faced demon or lipstick-faced demon is chaotic, surreal, and utterly terrifying. When you first see it behind him, it's a shock. But then when you see it later on in the further, and it's sharpening its nails, and even just this scene here, like, you don't see it fully, but you see enough of it to know that it's fucking creepy. Now, one other thing that really does play well in this, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, is the sound design of music. It evokes dread and tension, and those screeching violins and sudden silences. It all just adds to the unease that this film is just drenched in. Rewatchability. Now, let's be honest. Most of these films, when you know the ending, they're one and done. There's no point in going back and rewatching them. However, there is so much to this that you may miss on the first watch that makes you go back and see what you missed and ask yourself, how did I miss that? There are ghosts hiding in plain sight. Jump scares that you know are coming that still get you. So will I rewatch this one? Yeah, I will. Final verdict. Insidious is a lean, chilling, supernatural thriller that doesn't just throw scares at the wall and hopes they stick. It crafts them with care, and it's backed by strong performances, hauntingly original mythology, and James Wan's razor-sharp direction. This film manages to be both terrifying and emotionally resonant. Rather than go for the jugular with gore, Insidious goes for the soul, and it sticks with you. It feels like a spiritual successor to classic haunting house tales like Poltergeist and The Haunting, while still being innovating enough to be fresh. So for horror fans, it is essential viewing. For casual viewers, it might just be the film that reminds you why you were afraid of the dark in the first place. Overall, for a score, Insidious gets an 8.5 out of 10. There you have it. That is my review of Insidious. Have you seen this one? Let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. I honestly don't think I've actually heard anyone say they dislike this film. But I would be keen to hear what your thoughts are on this one and its sequels that are coming up, because we will be going through the entire franchise. There are 5 films in total. Obviously, the sequel takes place directly after this, but we'll be touching on that next week. We're also kicking off another franchise on Trashy Tuesday, so go and check that out next Tuesday, because that's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Anyway, look, before I blather on too much, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please do hit that thumbs up button. It'd be much appreciated. And of course, if you've listened to me talk about this film for so long, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I do release a new review. Anyway, look, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.
Spit fire quick, Ginger Ninja with the flicks. Cuts deep like the blade in his